unit,
Right.
polyclinical, which one of the questions, Massimo, is what can you learn from Italy? Give us, please, your wisdom, being both an ACST reference center for Italy and also a COVID center. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon to everybody. And so what can I add after Paolo? So first of all, I want to give you a positive message. The positive message is that social distancing was able, from my point of view, from our point of view, to reduce the number of people with a CHD, which people affected. Because as Paolo told you, the story beginning here in Italy at the end of February. And immediately, because the first zone was just in the corner of our hospital, few kilometers far away, we started to recommend our patients to avoid to come to our hospital to visit for the outpatient clinic. Secondly, we asked the most serious people like Fontan, people like TGA with specific atrial correction to stay at home. And we personally did prepare a lot of certificates to allow them to stay at home, to avoid to work. I believe that this, what we did during the first weeks for some numbers of patients was really helpful. So we believe that social distancing is important. The second things we learned that from Greek people, because in Greece, the number of people affected, you may correct me, Michael, if I'm wrong, the number are very low comparing to the others. Probably they are still in the curve, but at the same time, colleagues from Greek are starting to ask us what is going on, what we are supposed to do. And they started with some very specific measure to reduce help the patient, ask them to stay at home, ask them to avoid to go work, etc. So we believe that also this confirm that some specific issues are important. Third, what we learned, we still have in our hospital 2 patients. One is she's 53 years old. One is in his 40s, and both of them were operated on in our hospital just before the beginning of the story, in the beginning of February. So the infection was an in-hospital infection, a nosocomial infection. So what we learned? We learned that probably is important to stress very much to stress everybody, to be to keep distinguishing separating the two group of population, the COVID from no COVID, because the risk, like in our hospital, where all the hospital is a COVID hospital, but our center, the congenital center, is dedicated at the moment, has a hub for all the patients of our region, is probably not the correct way to manage the situation, because it's very difficult to keep a separation between the COVID part and the no COVID part. At the same time, in terms of severity, I can say that both of our patients are still in the ward. They don't need, they don't need ICU, they don't need ventilation, just a little bit of oxygen. One of them developed some pulmonary aspect of disease, but both of them are very well. One of them will discharge in the next few days. So I think some aspects some positive messages. To keep on with the social distancing, very important. Second, to stay in touch with your doctors, with your cardiologists, and we found very, very, very important the help of our National Patient Association. They started in the beginning to do something every day, to post every day some specific information, some specific tips, and some specific awareness. We started as doctors, as physicians, to talk and to speak with all our patients, asking their questions using the web, using the social media. So I think we are still learning, but because now we are probably cross finger starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe what is important is since the beginning of this specific step, as you are at the moment, think about the step number 2. How to sort out of this situation, how to organize the second step when the situation will be better. Because it's very important not to allow people to start immediately going work around because the weather is getting better. One final message. I received today lots of message from my patient asking me, because after Easter, probably we will reduce our lockdown, we will reduce all the we will allow people to restart work in some specific ways. They ask me what we are supposed to do. Are we supposed to go to work? My answer is no. Stay at home until at least for a couple of weeks more. After all, the situation will get better. This is my final message, Michael. Michael, your microphone? Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry. Thank you so much, Massimo, for sharing your experience with us. And the data from Bergamo and from Milan, we must share with the rest of the world, because they're, correct me if I'm wrong, you give us a positive message that A, the measures that you've taken of distancing seem to pay dividends, and B, patients who were infected by COVID-19 seem to have done well and not running into big trouble as older patients with comorbidity do, ventilated and so on. So that's, I think, very, very encouraging. May I ask you very briefly, Massimo, you said that you're a COVID center. How did you manage to protect an area for congenital heart disease within your institution?
Yes, we create, so we have a separate ward just dedicated to congenital. We have 2 wings, one for pediatrics and one for adults patients, because we are taking care of all the congenital patients at the moment, not just for taking care of adults. We have a dedicated theater for where we are still doing emergency from a surgical point of view, and also a cath lab available. We are ICU dedicated, separated on the rest of the COVID part. But at the same time, the problem are corridors, common spaces that is very difficult because it's not a hospital built for infection disease. So we have common parts, and these parts probably are the reason why some of our patients, 2 of our patients, were infected. So that I believe that probably if you are organizing the way to follow your patient, it's better to have a separated, just a dedicated hospital without COVID patients.
Thank you, Massimo. Much appreciated. I think we should move to Rachel Adam-Smith, who is going to give us